Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I just saw a really dope clip online. Joe Budden sat down with Adam 22, and I never knew that they had sat down together. Um, Two personalities that I would love to see more content from together. I just like to see those brains come together and bounce ideas off one another because they're so very different, but they both see the world very unique ways. And so I'm intrigued by Adam 22, his psychology in general, just off the strength of what I saw uh, when he went through a situation that was very serious. When someone put a gun to his head and he was laughing hysterically. That's when I knew he was different, very different. And so I'm just very intrigued by people who experience difficult situations that way. And not to mention that he finds himself, you know, kind of involved in different things that you would otherwise not expect your platform to be involved in, from a street standpoint, and still doing extremely well. So it's just intriguing to see him and Joe Budden sit down. Um, but the content of what they were talking about in this situation, or the context rather, was whether or not it was appropriate for Adam 22 to post an interview that he did with Kevin Samuels directly as the news dropped that Kevin had passed away, or was, at the time, it was a discrepancy whether or not that rumor was true. So yeah, that situation lasted some time. It was a good day or so where there wasn't a clear understanding as to what had happened to Kevin Samuels. But um, nevertheless, Adam 22 dropped content. Now, I'm not certain, it wasn't clear to me in the context of what was said uh, when Adam dropped that news. It was said an hour after he passed, but again, as I remember it, we didn't know. I found out that it was rumors that he had passed, and then we had thought he had passed, and then a day later it was confirmed. So I don't know if that interview was dropped when it was confirmed or not. But nevertheless, Joe Budden was making the argument that Adam should not have dropped the content. Now, the key to the content was whether or not it was controversial. To understand Kevin Samuels would be to understand that he thrived in controversy. That was his. that was his. That was his energy in general. It was just to say controversial things. Um, about black women and black men, and put them in certain categories that people would otherwise see as disrespectful. So as I look at that situation, he passed away in a situation where um, he just had a heart attack, and so it was one of those circumstances where, okay, Adam 22 drops this interview, and you know Joe Budden essentially took offense to the fact that it was dropped. And, the key to it all was Joe Budden was essentially saying, like, you can find yourself dropping this information before the family even knows what happened to the person. You could be the person that breaks the news to a good friend or someone who knew them. You should respect that time. You should respect that time threshold, more or less, to say, I'm not going to drop anything in regards to this person. But Adams 22's point of view is like, well, look, I'm going to drop this content because people want this content at that time. They're going to be searching these people's names and they want to see it. If it's not something that's disrespectful or something that's going to paint them in a light they wouldn't appreciate, and you have exclusive content, that would be the time to drop it because the people are demanding at that time of that person. It's not that they passed away that he's trying to capitalize on necessarily. It's the demand. No different than any other situation when you're a content creator. You want to react to the demand. You want to go with what works. And this is what I talk about in terms of chasing the numbers. Sometimes it can blur the lines of what morality is or redefine what morality is. And I think that's what we're doing in these situations. But nevertheless, Adam 22 is more or less trying to be a trailblazer for that, and helping people understand, like, look, yes, am I monetizing these videos in this situation? Yes. Why? Because that is how it best spreads to everyone who's on my platform, and I'm trying to feed my platform's um, audience, and I get that. I've always understood that, and that's been my point of view the whole time in that argument. Joe Budden's point, the most important point that I took from Joe Budden's statement, was that you got to respect time. Don't want to reveal that information too soon. That's my TMZ argument. You guys are breaking the news to people. That is not something that is appropriate, and that is bad for the mental health. So that's Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Adam 22 and all content creators should try to clear something with the family to make sure they're not breaking news to people they otherwise shouldn't be. But there's no way to do that. There are going to be people who don't find out what happened 2 or 3 weeks down the road. You know what I mean? If you release that information an hour later, if you release that information a week later, you're breaking it to somebody whose feelings are going to be very much hurt. So when you assume that you can, protect or effectively guard against that, you're naive as to think that it'll work, and it won't necessarily work. You cannot effectively protect people from being traumatized by the passing of someone that they love. So it is what it is in that regard. At the end of the day, if I'm looking up somebody's name and you have exclusive content on them, I'm hopeful that I can find that content. Selfishly speaking, as a consumer, I'm looking for them. They passed away. I want to celebrate them. When my favorite basketball player passed away, I was looking up their information. I was looking up their highlights. I want to see all the exclusive stuff. So if for some reason, randomly, my favorite blogger had exclusive content with Kobe, he maybe have had some footage where he saw Kobe shoot around or something, I want to see that content right then and there. Maybe he doesn't have that content at the top of the list any other time, but now because that demand is there in the unfortunate passing, now we get to see that footage. And it's necessary for us as consumers. I mean, what are we doing here, right? But to feed the consumers what it is that we think could either help them or entertain them, or ultimately best represent ourselves. So, if the goal is always the same, to feed the numbers, to give people what it is that they want, then why would Adam 22 otherwise compromise that in such a demanding event as passing could be? It's a demanding event. People want to look up their favorite person. They want to grieve by looking up whoever it is and celebrating them, or some people, maybe they have different points of view, so they want to look up other things and react to that. So either way, the name is going to be on demand. And Adam 22 put that content up. Now Joe's point of view was like, it's controversial, the things that Kevin was saying in the interview might not have painted Kevin in a light that was positive or whatever. I didn't see the interview myself, but essentially that's what Joe's argument, one of the points in his argument was. But the thing about Kevin is Kevin Samuels, again, thrived on controversy. So it's not like he would not be proud of the content. You know what I mean? That's the thing. If you're putting up content he wouldn't be proud of, I'm with you. In regards to for example, the Kobe Bryant situation, where these people showed these pictures, you know what I mean? And luckily enough, justice was served, and Vanessa Bryant was able to receive $16 million from the sheriff department in regards to that case. That is a situation where I'm like, okay, those pictures should have never been spread. I would have loved for those pictures to have been destroyed after the business with them was done. And I think that's what it should be across the board for closed cases. You know what I mean? If you don't, and I say this considering a lot of things, but if there's no reason to keep certain photos, they should probably be destroyed. You know what I mean? I don't know what the purpose would be in a closed case. So I can see the purpose in destroying them, though. Obviously, this is that. So when you look at the situation at hand, you just respect the sensitivity that Joe Budden is trying to express. Maybe he's pointing it in a direction that I don't think I would apply it, but he's hovering around the right places. At the end of the day, there's a sensitivity level that we should have about those type of things if we're going to respect mental health, if we're going to respect identity, if we're going to respect all these different mindsets, and try to be as careful with one another as possible. We need to start letting that bleed into these type of conversations as well. If we're going to let the TMZs and if we're going to let the content creators dictate and determine what's morally correct, then we need to be aligned with that, and we need to start acting as if that is what it is. Let's change our ways if we're going to let them run the story, if we're going to let them tell the story. And remember, the only thing they're after is the numbers. They could care less about whether or not we feel good about or feel bad about. We tell them, and then they react to it. That's essentially what Adam's telling you. And that's what I tell people in regards to sports too. It's like, look, if you're tired of the type of sports conversations that are bullying players, they talking bad about this guy every single day. It's an Adam 22 type of situation. They're reacting to you. They're reacting to you. If you're moved by bullying, if you're moved by negative energy, if you're moved by seeing people be, put down, they're going to keep doing it. If you change your tune as a collective and say, yo, we want to see people uplifted, we want to see beautiful stuff all day long, nothing but positivity, guess what? It's going to look like a small world on every channel you turn to. It's going to look like a Disney Channel everywhere you go, because they're going to react to you. If you start going corny, they're going to go corny. If you start going raw, you're going to see nothing but nudity all over the television. Because at the end of the day, they're going to react to whatever you do. So that's why I say it starts with the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror, the person in the mirror, whoever, it starts with you. We gotta look at ourselves in whatever one way or another to say what we will accept and what we don't. And then as it pertains to bereavement and people mourning and stuff like that, I just think the conversation needs to be had. We need to catch up with the times, I guess. I mean, instant gratification mode. We're in give me everything right now mode. 5G era. People are going to find out you passed away before your family does. There's no way to effectively stop that from happening. I think that's the elephant in the room this is where we're at. Simple as that. You want the camera out all the time, they're going to see stuff. People are going to have that footage upon the time when you pass away. So if you're out here acting stupid on this camera, guess what? That's what they're going to have the ability to show upon the time you pass away. You can traumatize all your family with all your most embarrassing moments. Yeah. So I think about it, and I understand that if we want things to change, we got to change. Simple as that. So I'm not mad at Adam 22. I'm not mad at academics. I used to look at those. I stopped looking at those guys as soulless animals. Vlad and all those guys. I stopped looking at them as the way that it looks to look at them, if that makes any sense. I stopped viewing them through that lens because I realized they just reacting to us. They're going to do whatever their audience tells them to do. They're a slave to the numbers. If the numbers tell them they can put panties on their head and spin on their head and that'll get them the most numbers, they'd try that. Like literally. And so that's just what it is. They're reacting to the people. The people need to change. And it starts with not letting those people control how you think. I mean, it's a circle. It's a cycle. You follow them, they follow you. You follow them, they follow you. That's what's happening. Somebody got to stop that. That's what I'm here for. I don't care nothing about the numbers. Deliberately for that exact reason. If anybody's wondering. That's exactly why I do it the way that I do it. Because somebody gotta offset that energy. That can't be the only thing out here. It gotta be about the art to somebody. It gotta be about the content, about the excellence to somebody. And granted, you need money to create the best version of the excellence you can want to provide. But at the end of the day, if it's only about the money, if it's only about the numbers, and there's no substance, it becomes the blind chasing the blind chasing the blind. Somebody has to be on the outside of that to help us see clearly, and I'm trying my very best to do that. So yeah, no, I can't sit up here and tell you I'm not going to talk about people as they pass away right away. I'm gonna speak on it as soon as it happens. But I'm gonna do it in a certain level of respect, and if I don't have anything nice to say, you won't see me turn on the camera. And there's the type of things that I think it's about. That's what it's about. If you can show respect, it doesn't matter how fast, how slow you do it. It's going to be respect. People are gonna have to catch up to how fast that information comes to them. People are gonna have to catch up to the idea that they're gonna find out before someone gets a chance to call them and tell them. This is the world we're in. But if that information is delivered in respect, they'll receive it the way they need to receive it, as if they're getting that call anyway. So that's what I gotta say, man. New world, new ways. BDF 44. Thank y'all for watching.